So number 11 in the assignment, it says determine whether or not there's a variation, whether there's a change, a chichu, say CH, and that's where the test got its name from, the chi square, chu, CH in change, all right, because it's testing whether or not there is a change from what you expect in the year 2000 to what you are observing in the year 2022. That's supposed to be 22, not 21. All right, it doesn't really matter. Okay, whether or not there's a change. So we're doing a chi square, right? Chi square test for variation. Okay. Now these are the values in the assignment number 11, which is number 12 in the worksheet. Okay, the setup is different because it wants to mimic the structure for a project itself. A project, you must have a topic and a research question followed by hypothesis. Okay, remember that's the same structure that is in the project we are completing. Please continue, advance. You should be completing your research questions in the introduction. In the project, here it is. I've started it. Each research question has a hypothesis. Okay, there are 7 of them. All right. Here in the worksheet, it says you are given the task of testing the following hypotheses by first completing the topic and research question. All right. You don't have to do that in the assignment itself. You have to go straight and do the test. Okay. But just to reassure you, the topic could be tourist arrivals. And the research question, did the number of tourists that arrived in the year 2000, is it different from the number in 2022? Was there a change? All right. You can even rephrase that. Was there? Can you start a sentence if was there? Did the number of tourists that arrived in 2000 changed or in the year 2022? Reflects, different ways of phrasing it, reflects change, the same chi square from the number in 2000. That's another way to rephrase it, just to include the word change, the CH, chi square. You can even spell change with using the chi symbol, Okay. Just to emphasize the name of the test and what it is doing. You're trying to test whether there was a change from what you observing from what is expected. Now the historical values will be the expected. Please bear that in mind. The historical values will be the expected values and the observed values will be the current values. So step number 1 now is to state a pair of hypotheses. This is a chi-square test for variation. We have established that. Chi-square test for variation, also called goodness of fit. And here are the HO and HA for it. So you can just type it, or you can use your snipping tool and take a snapshot of this and paste it in step number 1. Okay. Step number 2, 3, and 4. We know how to get the curve. The same curve will be skewed to the right. The critical point will be on the right. Okay, you can use a text box and so forth. And now the critical value will be provided. The critical value here is 9.348, where it is placed there already, 9.348. So what we need to do now is to calculate the test statistic to see where it is going to land. Now, as you can clearly see now, this is the formula for the chi-square test statistic. The sigma is involved here. You have O and E. We have to make a table. O and E, so we can do O minus E all squared over E. Go back to the table. The observed will be what is happening now in 2022. And what you expect is what happened in the past. So we can use Excel to do that. Since we have used Excel a while ago, the formula is programmed in Excel already. So all we need to do now is to update the values using the values for this example. The expected value, we don't have to calculate it. It is, as we say, it is the historical values. That's what happened in 2000, so that's what we expect to happen. It happened already, so we're expecting it to happen. But that's what we're observing, so we're going to compare what we're observing with what we expected to see if there was a change, right? So therefore now, the observed will be 700. So in cruise ship P, you observed 700, but you expected 6698 because that's what happened in the year 2000. In cruise ship Q, you observing 709, but you expected 8017 because that's what happened in the year 2000. In cruise ship R, you observe 781, but you expecting a 8032. And in cruise ship S, you observing 996, but you expected a 9015. It is okay for the chi-square test statistic to be elevated because remember you're comparing, you're subtracting and you're squaring. Okay, so as you can see, the difference between what you expected and what you're observing is huge, isn't that so? You're expecting 6698, but you're observing 700, and we all know why, you know, because of the COVID and so. So this is our chi-square test statistic. After we have added all the chi-square contributions, there are 4 of them: 5371, 6661, 6545, and 7133. And this is our chi-square test statistic. We Control C, copy, and we Control V to paste. That's step number 5. All right. And now step number 6 now is to place the 25,000. It's not a problem because this is not drawn to scale. We just want to know on which section of the curve the test statistics lands. We're not really interested in the value per se because we're comparing it now with the critical value. Actually, there are some, you know, professors, some schools of thought that don't really use the table. They're just comparing the critical value and the test statistic and they're deciding. But a visual, you know, goes a long way. So you can actually see that in this case, the test statistic is in the critical region. Okay, you can see that because it is greater than the critical value. Okay, critical is above the critical value, it's in the critical region. So we have to reject the null. All is about the null, either to reject the null or not to reject the null. Here, you're not rejecting the null. Here, rejecting the null. Don't reject the null, reject the null. Don't reject the null, reject the null. We are rejecting the null because the test statistic is in the rejection region. If you reject the null, then you're left with the HA. That will be the conclusion. Always starting with 2, one of them is the conclusion. Okay, so let's go to see what step number 7. Right, since the test statistics is in the rejection region, the decision is to reject the null. step number 8. Since the null was rejected, then the alternative is the conclusion. Therefore, based on the data that was observed, so we have to quote what the HA is saying. The observed values are not equal to the expected. There was a change in tourist arrivals. You observe what you're observing on the data. Therefore, based on the data, there are different ways of phrasing that. What was observed is different, is significantly different from what was expected. Okay, hence was the same. There was a chi-square. There was a change in the tourist arrival from 2000 to 2022. Okay. Always say based on the data, yeah? Based on the data that was collected.